Welcome back to We Time Convo. I'm Liza, and today I'm thrilled to have my guest co-host, Dawn Marie and Marita. Together, we are diving into the world of high school athletics. In this episode, we will be interviewing our high school athletic director, Drew, as we discuss everything from college requirements for aspiring athletes to the competitive landscape of high school sports. We'll also explore the latest trends shaping the future of athletics in our schools. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome back. We have my guest co-host here, Dawn Marie.
Yay.
And then we have Marita.
Hello.
And then we also have our athletic director, Drew Marino. Say hello.
Hi, happy to be here.
So actually, we're actually, this is actually the roast of Drew Marino. It's actually
Oh man, I wasn't told about that.
So before we
gotta come more prepared.
Before we get started on like the questions about high school athletics, just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, Drew.
I grew up in Almaden, kind of from San Jose whole time. Both my parents are teachers, been in public education.
How long have you been coaching certain sports?
I've been coaching in total 13 years.
Is there a sport you don't coach? Because I feel like you coach a lot of sports.
Yeah, I've been basketball, baseball, and just took up flag football this year. We started a girls flag football team, so I coached that this year too.
Yeah. And fun fact, Drew is a newlywed. He just got married in August. And I am still salty that we weren't invited, but it's okay. And, we make fun of, what I love about Drew is that we make fun of him all day, every day at work. And
I'm missing out on
that. And he just takes it. He just laughs about it, laughs it off.
I don't think it would be making fun of. I think we have friendly banter.
I make fun of him.
All right,
I don't think you're there. So, Drew, this is a safe space. Nobody's listening, but every time you go home at night, do you cry to Miranda because we tease you all day?
Oh my God.
Yeah, I do. I vent to her, and I'll, no.
I'm sorry.
I don't think Drew talks about us ever to anybody.
Drew, I'm going to do better. I promise. I'm gonna do better. Okay.
I thought you said you can do better in January.
Yeah.
So, yeah, January.
First of the year.
Well, thank you for coming on. So first question is, can you just share your journey to becoming an athletic director?
It started out went to San Jose State, started coaching when I was at San Jose State, finishing up my degree there. Started coaching at Leland where I went to high school, was there for 5 years coaching, taught 1 year of middle school PE, which if I didn't want to do what I'm doing now, probably would have stayed teaching middle school PE for 35 years. It was pretty fun, but went over to Willow Glen, took the boys basketball job there, was there doing that and teaching PE for 5 years. And then after the 2020 school year where we were teaching online most of the year, applied at Lee and been at Lee since 2020.
Yeah, we brought him on board, and then Drew's been our athletic director, and then also all the new technology and stuff he's gotten to do with how to reach out to students. So the team snap and that's definitely changed since I'm kind of piggyback with athletics a little bit, where it's not just a paper form that you're filling out. And then the kids with Instagram are students and student athletes. And I feel like maybe the parent involvement the last couple of years has definitely jumped up in some aspects coming out of COVID and everything.
I think there's been a huge increase because I'm also a parent and both of my kids were athletes.
Yes,
and I love the use of Team Snap because there's like one place we go to look to get our information, and that's how coaches can communicate with their athletes, how coaches communicate with their parents. That's where the schedule is. Usually that's where the schedule is. Yeah. And then I think Sports Boosters is the one that drives the Instagram account, which is great because it's awesome to see the sports that don't get all the attention.
So going back, just for people that don't know, what is Sports Boosters?
It is a parent-led group that supports athletics at a school. So our school, the parents, they help supplement funding for uniforms, for coaches, for like hosting events at the school.
Well, as Drew can attest to, I think it was a misconception that athletics gets funding,
right?
And that you have a huge budget for funding and stuff. If you want to talk a little bit about how that actually works, because I think that would be a really good thing for a lot of parents to know how funding.
Especially when you're asking parents to help donate, like so that it can be aware, like I know why I'm donating.
Sure. The Sports Boosters, like you said, it supplements athletics. We don't charge the kids to pay to play, so to speak. We don't we don't charge them $250 just to be on the team. So Sports Boosters helps with that. Each team does their fundraising, and that's how they're generating money for their uniforms and that sort of thing. And there are sports that do better than others because they have more kids on the team. And in, like you said, Marita, it's some of those sports do need a little bit of help sometimes, just with the cost of equipment and with like a tennis or a golf, or, you know, some of that equipment is expensive, and, you know, Sports Boosters can help with that. So that's a huge thing that they do for us. They bought 200 backpacks that we share throughout the sports this year. So that was a big expense that they put out for our athletes. So that's kind of where the boosters come in.
How about tickets for when you like watch the game? Like when you pay for tickets, does that go towards that particular sports team or sports as well?
Yeah. So no. So that's in a separate, we have like we call it a gate account. It's a gate money account. So that kind of goes into just like the general athletics fund. So it used to be paying for referees, which was a huge part of that. It kind of I have like we have like an equipment, necessary equipment is what I was trying to say. So I have that gate money account to, you know, supplement the stuff that people need before their season starts, maybe if they haven't done their fundraising yet. So kind of a piece by piece.
I'd like to point out that because I pay for things at the school, that reconditioning of football equipment is super fucking expensive. I look at the invoice and I'm like, whoa, $15,000. So yeah, it's a lot of money.
Also, Drew and Liza can attest, and me just hearing conversations, I think a lot of parents think athletics gets maybe just throwing out a random number, like $100,000, and that's how you're all gonna put the money. And it's like, no, this is like grassroots. You are begging other people for money to help run these activities in sports across the board, no matter what they are, because there isn't a budget somehow, some way allocated towards athletics. Right. You really asking for volunteers for things. The only thing that I think we really cover as a school is maybe the facilities and the grounds. But other than that, if your kid's involved in sport, you need to help out and figure out how to get funding more so. And it's not just about the sweats and the bag and that, because the refurbishing of all the football equipment, there might be stuff for traveling to tournaments, how everybody's getting there.
Tournament fees, right? Like, so the sports don't have gate fees. They have like cross country and track. They have invitationals, and there's a fee for the kids to go compete in those things. So that's that's part of the athletics budget that has to get covered.
Physicals, heart screenings.
Yeah, our school
Drew, you want to talk about that?
That's a great thing our school does.
Yeah, that's we kind of had piloted. We have like athletic physicals that the kids have to do every year. Three years ago, our district piloted with the Kyle J. Taylor Foundation and partnered with Kyle J. Taylor Foundation and Jennifer Sarmento, who runs a heart screening now. So the American Heart Association recommends that teenagers get screened every other year, get an EKG. So we started it with freshmen and then went to juniors, right, every other year. So freshmen and juniors. And so those years they get a heart screening. Jennifer and her husband come in and they set up their machines and do it right in our gym. And so that's kind of like a secondary piece just for the overall safety of the kids. And I think we found in 3 years, she's found six kids with some sort of
undiagnosed
heart condition. Nothing serious, but something that, hey, you should probably go to your doctor, have the doctor look at this, you know, more testing sort of thing. So it's been a positive thing.
And Kyle J. Taylor was
thank you, Marita. I was just going to point that out.
Leon and I had him as a student. He was a soccer athlete. And he was an amazing young man. And he just maybe less than a year after graduating, he unexpectedly passed away from an undiagnosed heart condition. So their family has really done a lot of work around awareness and education and the heart screenings in our district wide now it is. And I know, and it's rare because when I asked Kaiser to I can't make that heart screening. Can you do it? And they're like, well, that's extra. And we don't do that. Right. So then I'm like, okay, well, I got to make that appointment at school. Right. So.
It's an amazing resource that we have for our students, and his parents are just amazing. They also have a scholarship that we do that they, they actually pick multiple students for for his scholarship in his memory. So it's great.
Yeah. So, and that piggyback with that and going over CPR in our PE classes and the AEDs, because I didn't get to have Kyle in class. I had all his friends, and now going, just awareness of educating our student athletes and students about, heat stroke, about hydration, and about like, hey, if you feel something, it's no longer push through it and you're stellar for doing that. Like, hey, if something comes up, definitely discuss, because we can have the greatest amount of resources and people looking out for you. But if you're not speaking up, especially our concussion protocol too, if you want to talk about that, what's different with our concussion protocols going on. You growing up, we didn't have, you got knocked.
You just hit your head, that's it.
Right.
That was it. Just wait, right?
Yeah. With the technology nowadays too, like it's a very old school, like, oh, just keep going, push through it. It's like, well, with what we have now, like that's not really a thing anymore. But we have a full-time athletic trainer. We have Shield diagnose the concussion. The kid, they'll go, concussion is the biggest one, right? Of course, they go to the doctor, they bring the doctor's note back, they're cleared. It could be I've seen kids get cleared by the doctor in, 3.5 days. Like they come at lunchtime or whatever. And then I've seen some up to, 12, 14 days where before they actually get cleared and the symptoms are gone. And you might have a tiny bit of, light sensitivity for an example, but kind of just depends on the kid.
We've had athletes even like a couple months that they have.
Yeah.
Well, and I would say as the teacher aspect, I've had students not only be our student athletes, but then they had club, and the club level did not do the concussion protocols, and they kept on getting more concussions somewhere else. So I'm kind of glad our district now is like, hey, we're very going to be proactive about this with the heart screenings, concussion protocol, and then overall communication. So that team snap, to bring it back to that, Drew as an athletic director can monitor all the interactions, and that as a safety protocol too, because once technology came into place, there's coach athlete things that happen throughout history, not I'll say us, but that's great because he's another safety guard of here's something that's traced. This is the only way you should be talking to your coach. There is no private messaging going on. And another safety protocol. I don't know if all parents really realize that when their student comes and everything, because as a student athlete, you're leaving campus sometimes. You're traveling with a certain group of kids, things happen. That technology, safety, and everything is a great another protocol and platform for that to happen. Yeah. So now do we want to ask Drew some hard-hitting questions?
Yeah. How does our school approach the tryout process for sports?
So
like students just don't apply and they automatically get it, right?
Right. Yeah. Marita and I were talking earlier. It's a kind of speak. Well, it's not middle school anymore. Yeah. And so where everybody's out there on the track team,
and you each get to pick a student, and whoever's last feels bad.
We only have, it is, you get to the varsity level, and it is. I kind of break it down like JV and varsity, in my opinion, are a little bit different, right? Because you have a lot of these sports at the JV level where it is okay, like more kids can play, and we want to get these kids experience after the tryout process. And most of our coaches have kind of an evaluation form, so to speak. And it could be different it's going to be different depending on the sport, right? The cross country and the track evaluation form is way different than the boys basketball or the softball, right? Mm-hmm. It's totally different. So an evaluation form and depending on the sport, right? You can keep more kids, and, you can't have 37 kids on the boys basketball team. You just can't, right?
You can't have 90 golfers. There's not enough hours in the day.
But you can have 60 kids on a cross country team.
You can, right? And more space, right? The space is a big deal, right? You have one gym, we only have one gym. But the spatial part of it is, we don't have enough space for these kids to be in there. It's not beneficial for the kids. So I think an evaluation form, and I think the communication piece from the coaches, I think that, as a coach, I coach baseball too. So I think that one of the best things that I've done, and I've tried to communicate this to other coaches, is you have to talk to the kids like one-on-one, and you have to, and I've done it where we've had to cut kids from the JV team, and we have that conversation, but also having the conversation with the kids that are on the team, like, okay, here's where you're at. And I think that it just helps your program so much because the kids know where they stand. The kids are, okay, I'm here. I need to work to get here. I want to do this. Okay, so here's how you get to that place. Here's where you want it. And I think that you have to be open and honest with them, whether they're on the team or not on the team. And I think that it's a huge deal.
Yeah. And that having veteran coaches who are able to tell kids like, this is where you're at with your skill level.
Right,
this is not, however you want to word it, not where you need to step it up.
Yeah.
You're not there yet. You can come back. I've seen students not make the baseball team, then go away for a year and then come back. Teaching that grit too, of like, hey, it's all right to hear no. It's weird because it's a coach's perspective. And I'll say we do definitely now have a strong group of coaches who are very communicative, talking, and the kids kind of look around like, yeah, this really is harder. I've had definitely students like, oh, I'm gonna go out for swimming just cause, and for other variety of reasons we'll talk about later. And I'm like, this is not little kids swimming here, guys, or middle school.
Right.
You need to produce because we are trying to win and trying to get numbers and contain or maintain our playing levels. Do you want to talk about the A League, B League, and
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
That
And I think that that kind of plays into the tri-help process a little bit too, right? And it's, in the BVAL, we have 26 schools in the Blossom Valley Athletic League that are divided into 3 divisions. We call it A, B, and C League, the Mount Hamilton, Santa Teresa, and West Valley. I think we have I think we'll probably talk about the competitiveness of athletics. I think we only have 2 teams that are in the Santa Teresa in the B League. That all of our other teams are in the A League in every sport. So
and that ebbs and flows over the years.
Sure, it does. And you have you could have a group that comes in and women's soccer, and you're at the top of the league for 4, 5, 6 years.
So not every school is in the BVAL League. Is that right? Like every school.
Every school is in a league.
Okay.
And we have 26 in the BVAL. And then you have
It's like one section of Santa Clara County, the high school.
Right.
Where it's such a big area that you have to chunk it down because otherwise you're traveling really far to play.
The other big public school league is the Santa Clara Valley League, which is the Los Gatos, Palo Altos, Milpitas, and then the West Catholic League. The private school league is probably the 3rd most schools, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, we could go down the list.
There's
150 plus schools in the CCS section. So
one nice thing about Drew being so part of the community and being part of the area growing up, really seeing and knowing it's a lot of networking that you have to do too. The athletic directors, it's just not like 5 minutes a day that they're doing something. Sure. It's all hours of the night. It's almost, which is,
I don't understand how you do, like our district changed things.
Yeah.
And it used to be full-time athletic position. I don't know how you do your job and teach at the same time.
Yeah. And the first 2 years, when I got to Lee, it was, we did have to teach one class still. I taught a PE class and did a credit recovery class too. The last 2 years we are back to full time. We're 1.0 now. So I don't teach any class. I haven't taught any classes the last 2 years. So
because
it's been a huge, right? It's a huge deal. Even, and just for, people have asked me, and it's just like the flexibility of it. Right. And it's like, okay, I have to, every other day I have to plan around being in the classroom for an hour and a half in the middle of the day, in the morning, whenever the class was. Right. But you got to plan for that. And it's like, well, what if something happens in that hour and a half? Right. And I felt bad a couple of times because I get a call, and depending on who the call's from, let's be honest, but I have to take that call, because there's something happening, or it's raining and the field is flooded at another high school. Right. I have to take that phone call. So it's kind of, it was a little bit hard.
Yeah. And anybody, because I've lived with almost every athletic director being close by, not like lived, but in my realm.
I was like, Dawn Marie, what's happening here?
Pretty close, except for, but being leave for this long and being very close with almost every athletic director. Yeah, it's astounding how our district doesn't take it so serious that there's one person doing, like Drew has to work with facilities. Like he's saying, like if he was teaching, oh yeah, if something's flooded, you need to fix that, or else you have to cancel a game, and that offsets X, Y, and Z. Or if there's something comes up with one of the coaches, he definitely has to handle that.
Or like when winter season is the most infamous, right? So like we've got basketball and soccer
Marita's
running the same time, and I do the scoreboard, and like Drew's taking care of stuff on the soccer field, and I'm texting him going, "Scoreboard's not working again." Scoreboard, and then and like I'm like, we have to wait, or we'll break out the NJB scoreboard.
I would say one thing that's a disservice for our athletic directors is that they don't have a team or a staff to handle, like you're handling financial stuff, you're handling facilities, you're handling basic personnel things. And so when I first got here, I was like, there's only one of you. And this is like, we have the most amount of student athletes. We have we're at almost 1,900 students at Lee.
We have the most students in the district.
And we have teams when they're doing well, that's where the parents are more high demanding and thinking, hey, we're all going to start sending our kids for what's called scholarships for their athletics. I was like, that's not his responsibility, because now that's switched and changed a lot to the parents really are the ones navigating their student athlete to go get those scholarships and to go do that. You don't get to help out, I don't think, as much in that realm at all. You give a little bit of information, but they really have to figure out and navigate that. Right?
I mean, advice if they want it. I mean, I think that I'm sure we'll probably get into it, but on that piece, the way social media is now, it's all right. The kids could get recruited off Twitter like this morning, right now. Like you post a video and you send it to, you could send it to the world if you really wanted to, right? And you could get recruited right there. So there is some networking to it, but it's a lot of it now is the kids posting their own videos, editing their video and sending that out. So
I guess I just want to say one thing though, is like, because being a parent, I hear what other parents say. Yeah. And I just want, like, no matter what school you're at, you really need to appreciate the athletic director, because they are juggling a lot of stuff, and their job is to make sure that every athlete has the opportunity to compete and participate. And not every kid is going to be that scholar athlete or that star player. And so I think you get a lot of the complaints about, why did my kid not play? And I'm like, that's not the athletic director's decision. That's left up to the coaches. And it's a competitive sport. High school sports are competitive sports. There's no, like, we're all just here to get the participation trophy. And so I feel like I just want to say that as a parent and a coworker, I acknowledge that you have a tough job, and I'm grateful to have you here.
Well, I just want to say, as somebody that makes fun of you all day, I'm very sorry. I'm aware now that you do actually work. So I'm very sorry, Drew. Okay.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yes. Well, anybody stepping into that role, I think you don't have a 9-to-5 job. Like that's the part where
24/7. Yeah. All right, let's talk about competitiveness. Okay. So Drew, how do you assess the competitiveness of our sports programs at school?
I think that could be a year-to-year thing, right? Mm-hmm. And so that depends a little bit on the other schools, right? Okay, so the kids that have come into the other schools in the league, and how are they how do we stack up against that group? Or and team sports and individual sports are going to be different, right? So like cross country, we've talked about, but you're running by yourself, right? You're trying to get the best time you can. Basketball, soccer, right? More team sports. So how good are the 6 or 7 best players over at Pioneer or Branham or Leland, right? So that kind of depends on that. And I think overall, I think we are very competitive. I think we have a lot of kids. We have a lot of kids that are involved in playing sports before they get to high school too, right? So we have a lot of kids that have a huge background before they get to high school. They've played the sport. They've played multiple sports actually. And so they're already coming in with a background. You're not starting from ground zero out on the soccer field, out on the baseball field, right? You're not starting, you can kind of skip some of the basic stuff because they do have a background. And I think that ties into the competitiveness. You're going to be better when the kids have a little background coming into their freshman year of high school.
And that's the shift from when we were kids. When we were all kids, right? Like I played basketball in middle school, and then I went to high school, right? And but I didn't do track or cross country, so I kind of learned those sports. And there was, it was expected that you didn't know a whole lot. But nowadays, like everybody's in some sort of like rec league or comp league. Up even before 6th grade, right? Like you can, my son played basketball when he was like 4, and then played all the way up until about 8th grade. and then decided that maybe not basketball is not our thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. You got like 7 and 8 year old like travel ball teams playing out at like Twin Creeks, probably right now, actually Saturday morning. I mean, they're 7, 8 years old and they're playing competitive.
So when people like there's, like people who haven't had their kids be very active and they come to our school and they're like, well, my kids, I'm like, well, unfortunately, yes, your kid is behind.
Right.
Because all the other students that are going out there, they've been playing since they were 4 years old. So not that that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm saying that's just the reality of it is.
Yep.
So, I mean, let's talk about sports beyond high school, right? So I don't even know what this is, but you can tell me what it is because I'm not a sports person. But what are the key NCAA or NAIA eligibility requirements that students need to be aware of? So what's NCAA and what is NAIA?
So NAIA is kind of, how should I explain this?
Just be blunt. And we can edit it.
Explain it like I'm 5.
So NCAA is you're gonna have, that's the highest level. You have Division I, Division II, Division III at the NCAA level.
National College Athletic Association.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. Thank you.
No. I was like,
National College Athletic Association. Yeah.
So an example of a D1 school would be, let's say for
San Jose State.
Yeah.
It's Division I, right? So
and why is that considered
it's the level of competitiveness and their success as a team over the years.
Okay.
Right. Back to the competitiveness part we talked about earlier. And then you have that would be the top level of amateur athletics, we'll say. And you have Division II and Division III, which are still, I mean, fantastic. I mean, you can get scholarships to Division II schools like a Sonoma State, a San Francisco State, Chico State. I mean, those are all Division II athletically. Division III are usually smaller schools. Division III athletics is really prominent in like the Midwest, like really like national championship schools in the Midwest. And then NAIA, to be honest with you, NAIA is kind of, a lot of schools have tried to get out of the NAIA level. I don't really have an answer as to why, but you're trying to transfer, getting from an NAIA school to a Division III school has kind of been like the trend I've seen, just like, looking. And so you get more benefits from it. NAIA, you can't give money to kids. You can't give scholarships at the NAIA level. So it benefits the school to be at the NCAA level, right? Just from a financial standpoint, if you're trying to make money. So kind of not that NAIA schools are, it's still college athletics and you're still playing. it's totally, appropriate for a lot of athletes as well.
Yeah.
So it depends on the goal of the athlete too, right? So like we have our campus, we have a lot of kids that want to compete at the collegiate level. And we have always have about a dozen kids that commit to a school because of a sport. And then we have like these signing days. And so like kids, they want to be like, I'm going to use the running, right? So they want to be running at a certain time. So in order to be eligible to play to be a runner at college, you have to be running like, we have a student at Lee that runs a 400 pretty dang fast. Right. And he's pretty dang fast, but he's got to improve his time by like 1.5 seconds or something.
Yeah, so a second or so. Yeah.
To really compete at the collegiate level. And that's what his goal is for this year. And it's his senior year. So
going back to eligibility requirements, like how much do these schools look at like your academics? Does it even matter? Like other than being a really good player? Depending on the
school, but I would say yes, a lot. Yeah, you have to qualify. You have to have a 2.3 GPA as like the minimum to be eligible for college athletics. So at the high school level, they have to have a 2.0 GPA to be eligible to play high school sports. College, you actually have to qualify. You can't qualify unless you have a 2.3 overall GPA. That's kind of just what they've set. So it used to be SATs, ACTs, and that's kind of gone away a little bit, to be honest, too. With colleges, I hate to say they don't care as much, but they don't care as much about ACT
coming
and
out
SATs.
Of our post-COVID era
it's not as big. That was a huge, like when I was in high school. Got to take the SAT. ACTs are just like, hey, got to do this. And now it's like, you don't really have to. Like some schools are like, yeah, we don't need your SAT scores. Like I've heard kids come and say, oh yeah, they don't care. They don't need them. And I'm like, oh, okay. Sounds good.
So investigating what the school requirements are, constantly asking, because that's going to change probably year in and year out. And then also parents investigating that college coach that you might want your kid to play for and seeing what they're all about. It's great. And I know it's a badge of honor to think your kid got accepted for a certain athletic, but then you're also thinking about their health and well-being of being at that school, investigating that at some point of what their school culture is, what's the climate of that kid's being away from home for the first time. And I always was taught that when you go to college, if you're a student athlete, you have no other life. Like you're with those people 24/7, because it's just not like for us, cross country and fall sports, they're about to end, right? However, when you're playing for a college, you're going year round with training and everything. So you're not doing the travel ball that you were supplementing a high school sport with. You are really invested into that group of people. So
it's usually scheduled into their schedule.
They have special schedules. They have someone helping them out with that. And then your major.
Yeah, they discourage a lot. You can tell me if this is true or not, but I've heard, rumor has it that if you're thinking that you want to be competitive athletically, you don't want to declare yourself as a STEM major. That's what I've heard. It's like, because there's a lot more commitment because as STEM majors, you're going to be in labs all the time. Yeah. And if you're traveling for a team, you're
missing that.
Yeah. You're going to, if you're going to have to prioritize one or the other.
True. That'd be interesting to take.
Because I do know that we do have athletes that have gone on and they are majoring in STEM, but they committed to those schools. So I'd be curious to follow up with them.
Yeah.
Like, how are you able to balance that? Like the last two field hockey players in the last 5 years, right? They both are STEM majors and they're competitive field hockey players, and they're both majoring in STEM fields.
Yeah, if I have to hear another kid be a communications major, I might.
Yeah, it is. I mean, colleges, the athletes have separate counselors. They do everything set for them because they are missing time, right? A lot. I mean,
traveling. Like, can you imagine that you're flying out somewhere, traveling, and then coming back? So that's stress. Granted, they're in their 20s.
Yeah. Even the community college, like West, I have a friend whose daughter is at West Valley. She tried out for softball. Unfortunately, didn't make it. But her schedule was dictated the fact that she was going to try out for softball. And they said, nope, you can't take that class right now because it,
know. Yeah. Right. So even though you might be getting and asking some parents to do you think your kid going to college, maybe getting a scholarship, is going to offset all the money you've invested in travel and sports teams and all the hours? Because hey, some of us, we're in a community in Pocket where we definitely had some kids for softball or volleyball. Like they're traveling to and from Florida a couple times a year, or ice hockey, and they were traveling to Michigan. That their scholarships that they get for college do not offset all the money that these parents have invested. I don't know how they do it, but they have invested quite a bit of money into not just high school, but all the club and select teams and all the specialized stuff.
And even when they sign on, like the kids that have signed on, I know a couple of like really awesome soccer players, they are on the bench at their teams at their schools.
Right.
So
yeah, it's competitive. Back to competitiveness again, right? It's competitive.
So, Drew, what role does coaching play in enhancing a student athlete's chance of being recruited onto like a college to play in college?
I think that kind of goes back to the networking piece that we talked about. I think that coaches having connection. I mean, I guess I could speak for myself, but like you can reach out and like, hey, I've got this guy, but you have to be careful as a coach though too, because you can't. I'm not calling somebody up at the college level for every single guy or every single girl that we have, playing sports, right? That's not realistic. So you have to. You kind of have to pick and like, okay, hey, and the more you've been around, the more that, okay, yeah, you are a college athlete, or you want to strive for that, or I think that's where it starts with like the high school coaches. They can be the first networking piece. They can reach out, along with the kid. But I think your connections you could start there with reaching out for your athletes.
So is that like when we hear like, oh, there's somebody scout here? Is that because maybe you've called them and said, hey, we've got a great athlete. You might want to come check one of our games.
Yeah.
Is that how that works?
Yeah, absolutely. That happens for sure. And I think through some of the club, like through club soccer is a good example, right? Yeah. Because they play club soccer all the time, and the college coaches go to these club events on Saturdays, and they can play on Sundays with club too, right? So they're out there, and then they'll watch them play there. But a lot of times the college coaches, they do like to come to the high school practice. Not always the high school games. They'll go watch them play in club because sometimes it's easier for them on the weekends. They can go on Saturday, not during the week, right? But then they can come at 3:00 on a Wednesday, come to high school practice, they can see you in that environment, right? So you, as a college coach, you're getting them in two different environments there, right? You're getting them in the club environment. You're also getting them in the high school environment where maybe they are the top player on the high school team, and on the club team, sometimes maybe they're the 5th best player. But you can see them maybe hopefully as a leader at the high school level on their high school team, or so it's kind of, I guess that's twofold for college coaches. I think the more environments you see the kid in, I think it's more beneficial to your recruiting too.
Yeah.
So
going back to the college recruitment and the social media aspect of it, I was talking to our lovely new registrar. So her son actually plays baseball in college. So how he actually got someone to come and scout him is that he actually had his own Twitter account, put all his accomplishments on there anytime he hit like a specific goal, and Twitter, social media, the wonderfulness of social media got to the scout and came out and watched him play. So social media is, and I don't even know how people did it before social media.
Just
word of mouth.
It was probably probably on the phone.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you want to come out here? But yeah, it's Twitter or X. It's a huge thing. All the kids have their own, and you can post. You post your 15-20 second video of you pitching a couple of pitches, a couple of batters, right? Like you were talking, Liza, or a couple of at bats, and it's so easy, and you just blast it out. You tag whoever you want. You tag San Jose State baseball, you tag whatever college you want, you tag, and it's,
you're not making a DVD anymore.
No.
But I mean, like
no
that,
VHS tape.
Yeah.
But that was a thing. Yeah. You'd burn the DVD and you could send that in the mail. Like that was definitely a thing.
Yeah.
For sure.
So now you have instantaneous recruiters, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Getting tons of information. So if you're seeing somebody in a really good light, that video, like they're doing so great, like all of us with social media, like it keeps on coming out.
It just sets the bar higher for competition now with social media.
Yeah,
right?
It does for sure. I mean, anybody could sit there on their phone. You just direct message them right back. Like, hey, do you have more videos of you pitching? Do you have more videos of you shooting? Whatever. I mean, so it's very easy. It's on your phone.
Yeah.
Anybody could just sit there on your phone, right? You recruit right there.
And I'm sure seeing players, their grit too, and then how they bounce back from adversity, playing on one team and another team.
Yeah.
And being that, how we were talking about the club and school, and then that with coaches too, over the years, their knowledge about skill development and training, because no longer are you just going, okay, guys, go, here's the ball, go play and stuff. You're really breaking down how the game is read and studied, and all their icons that they're looking for or looking at, be at the college level or professional. I'm assuming every young kid has this idea of professional, that they're like, you need to study the game. You need to study other people. This is just not about your own skill development and how you do on the court. Like you really need to analyze what would work here and that. So I feel like our student athletes are smarter on that aspect because the coaches have stepped up their game about really educating players about, well, why would you choose to do that instead of this? What was going on here and that. And then the other thing with our student athletes and their parents and them building community, and Marita can attest to this more so, it's like, man, they're doing a lot more things together. The dinners, the social activities and everything. Drew, football, so when we see stuff on social media about our teams, they're having family dinners, people are hosting. You're not just dropping your kid off anymore in the good old days of like, hey, I go play around and I'll pick you up. You're invested in this. You're invested in these other kids and their families, even at the club level, because you're traveling with a kid and their whole family sometimes and seeing them more often than your own family and everything.
Well, I want to know, is there drama? Like, is there like a Real Housewives of high school sports in the background? I'm sure there is.
Maybe there might be. I think I'll probably stay out of. I'll probably stay out of that.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. I will say I only know like field hockey and track, the running sports. But I would say in terms of like for right now we're in cross country season, right? And so I had 60 kids over at my house for a team dinner.
Yeah.
And my favorite moment of this team dinner is like, and there's a bunch of new freshmen that are like doing cross country as they're conditioning
really
for
good.
soccer, and they're really great. And I just like videotaping them walking around, and I'm like, well, what do you like about being on cross country? And these 3 freshman boys were like, it's like being in a family, and they were like very joyful about it, right? Aww. And so they do that. They have their, the team. They do a lot of stuff together, and it is a team sport, by the way, cross country.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
And so like the thing that I love about cross country that I see more so now, because I can see basketball and I see other sports, but like the camaraderie across the finish line, Branham has an amazing distance runner. Like he went to state last year and was amazing. And like the camaraderie across schools, it's not as there's not that right. I mean, of course they want to win, but like there's so much positivity, encouragement, like that you celebrate anyone who gets a PR, which is personal record, personal best on a thing. And so I love that about the running sports, is that there is a lot more like of that. Like even we'll root for Branham when we're running against Pete.
Oh yeah, because you want
right,
but it
totally, absolutely.
But that I think is a culture of change. Like you want, if someone's doing really well, that makes you want to chase after that, and then that makes you want to work harder to come after it, and not just competition.
But the kids themselves are like, there's a lot more camaraderie. I do see like the parents, there is a little bit of like, oh, well, why did my kid not know?
And then
Real Housewives.
Real Housewives.
There's the drama.
There was a group of parents, they did funny things, and it was just like, oh my.
And as a parent and a teacher, I'm like, I don't know. That's the coach's decision. And I got to rely on the coach. They're the professional. They know what's best for the school's team. It's not just about your kid. That's usually what I try to say.
Yeah. And that's a hard
thing for them to.
It's a hard thing to hear sometimes, right? Yeah. But you're right.
Yeah. And then I've been witness to parents over the years who were very disruptive at games and very rude and crass.
That'd probably be me.
No. And so
sober November.
We were talking about that earlier. No, they really drank before they came in to watch their kids. There's a group.
I don't know.
I mean, there's a reason why my kids aren't in sports.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Never heard that.
All right. So, well, I mean, can students play sports in college without being recruited? Is that a thing?
A walk on?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I think there's a couple avenues there. I mean, some schools, depending on the sport, you have like they call it preferred walk on, where, hey, yeah, we got this spot for you, but you still have to perform, right? And then you could walk out there at the Division I level. I'd probably say not as much, but even at a Division II school, I mean, you could go out there, and I think for the tryouts, so to speak, at the college level, it's not really tryouts all the time, but sometimes they do have open tryouts, and you go out there if they like you, if you're good enough. Like I've heard of kids going out there and making the team and getting a uniform and all that. So it definitely happens. I wouldn't say it's like prominent. I wouldn't say that happens all the time, but it's every once in a while that could happen for sure.
A lot of colleges too have club teams. Like they're like, It's a club.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So like when I was at Cal Poly, I was the worst lacrosse official ever. But my roommate, like she was Cal Poly didn't have an official lacrosse team, but they had a club lacrosse team. Right. And so like they can do that. Like my daughter was thinking like the school she goes to, there isn't a field hockey team. She's like, if I had time and it wasn't so expensive to get it started up, she would have loved to try to initiate having a field hockey team at her school.
Yeah.
So,
and college is where motherhood of necessity, like if you don't have something, someone will invent it. So that's where like certain sports have been created and built up at certain college campuses and stuff.
Yeah.
Like ultimate frisbee and stuff.
Beer pong.
Yeah. Beer pong.
Is that not a sport?
They got clubs for that now?
I feel like this Sober November is not really working.
I told you I'm going to turn my life around in January.
That's right.
New Year's resolution.
Actually, she'd skip December altogether.
Well, I mean, that's all the questions that I have. But if you guys feel like Marita, Drew, or Dawn Marie, if you have any other questions or things that you'd like to talk about that we're missing out on for high school sports, do you have any advice for, any students, Drew, that are trying to play in the competitive after high school, college level?
Get get yourself out there. Get yourself out there, create your videos. I mean, there's many people that, I mean, I've helped kids create like recruiting videos, and it's a lot easier nowadays, to be honest, like through Huddle is a film service. And, you know, we didn't really get into that, but, which is fine, but you can clip your videos and create, you know, a 1.5-minute video or even 20 seconds if that's all you needed, but get yourself out there. And I know we went through the social media stuff, but it's put yourself out there on social media. Like all you need is one person. You need one recruiting coordinator at one school to say, hey, we want this kid, and hey, I want to come see you. And that's all you need. If that's your goal, you only need one person to say yes, that we want you. And so the more you're out there, the more chances.
And keep up your athletics. It breaks my heart every time a kid comes by. I'm like, I didn't make grades. Can you? I'm like, I can't. I'm sorry, I can't.
Right.
You need to, you know, especially if it's in the middle of the season when the progress reports come out.
Yeah.
So
that for us, it's 2.0, but
yeah,
it's like, you're student first. We reiterate that. And then I would say, to piggyback on Drew, don't expect anybody to be looking at you or doing anything. Yeah. Go research, go find other people who've been through the process, and then just saturate the market. Almost treat it as like an acting job. I usually say, like, you might really be passionate about this and have a great, strong skill set, but somebody has to see you in that role, on their team, in that position. And so they're not going to know unless you really advertise for yourself.
How about advice for parents that have, you know, student athletes?
Think, to me, what I would say to a parent is like, be honest with yourself about why you want your kid to participate in athletics. So me personally, my goal is I wanted my kids to be active. I had no dream about my kids playing sports in college or going professionally. To me, it was important that they stay active. So if you come in with that mindset, and then you're just going to continue to support your kid and just, you know, encourage them to do their best. If you want your kid to, if you want your kid, if your kid wants to play competitive, then you can do the things that you want to do to support them. But just be advised that I feel like nowadays, everybody thinks their kid is the star athlete of the team and the best. And like in that school population, they might be the starting player. They might be the, you know, the amazing, oh my God, I can't believe this kid's not going to be playing in, you know, they should be playing in the NBA. I'm like, but look at how many people are in the WNBA and NBA. It's not that many people. There's 250 million people in the United States, and our professional athletes don't just come from the United States. They come from worldwide. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's a super competitive, and you just got to be realistic about, you know, there is only so much that so far talent can get you.
That, and I would say, as the teacher aspect, I've definitely had students be burnt out from going to so many things, and to take that as a pause. And like, if this is your kid is telling you, your student is telling you like, and they're crying and they're mad and angry, it's like, yeah, they're burnt. Recognize that. Don't think that pushing through is going to solve anything. Sometimes Simone Biles really great talking about it. More athletes, like, yeah, everybody deserves a break because it is a machine.
Your kid has to discover that sport, that's what they're passionate about. So I always thought my kid is tall. For some reason, he's really tall. And I always thought like basketball. Because Drew knows I love basketball. I watch basketball all the time. Yeah. That's why I have the scoreboard, because I love watching basketball. I thought, oh, my kid, I want him to try out for the basketball team, right? And then I'm like, ooh, it's very competitive. But then, you know, but he was like, but he had a really bad NJB experience actually. And so he's like, nope. And then he discovers that he loves running. And like, I see more sort of joy in his face when he's participating in running, as opposed to all the other team sports we ever played. Yeah. Like he's it. Yeah. So like your kid has to discover that. I see lots of parents go, well, I was good at basketball or I was good at baseball, so I want my kid to play these sports. And it's like, you might want your kid to play that sport, but they have to want to do it. It's their life that you have to just help them navigate through, and rather than pigeonhole them into a position.
Yeah. Good advice. Well, thank you, Marita. Thank you, Dawn Marie, and thank you, Drew. I'm sorry for everything bad thing that I said to you. I apologize.
You think Liza's like viciously attacking him every day?
They're gonna think,
I've never heard so many apologies come out.
Oh my gosh. No, you need to be in the office. Drew is pretty good about it. Yeah. Well, thank you, Drew, and thank you guys for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.